All right. Well, I wanted to make a quick video, just kind of going over some frequently asked questions that I tend to get on TikTok, on Facebook, on YouTube. So I wanted to make that. But first of all, happy Memorial Day. Hopefully everyone has had a good Memorial Day weekend. And a big thank you to all of our servicemen and our servicewomen. So if you served in the military, thank you for your service. So let's kind of get into what I wanted to talk about today. Again, these are like some of the most common questions that I tend to always get. So I want to just make a video of it just to clear up anything. And if you also have these questions, then feel free to watch. But basically what we're going to cover is what insurance do you need as an Airbnb host or co-host? Any LLC info. I feel like a lot of people have questions about your LLC, if you need to set one up, if you don't need to set one up, kind of what the situation is there. Your basic responsibilities as a co-host. What are you responsible for versus what is the actual host and the property owner responsible for? And then simply how to start, kind of where to begin and what to expect as you get the ball rolling on co-hosting. So let's jump into it. Shouldn't be too long of a video, but again, I just wanted to kind of cover the basics for you. So what insurance do you need? So when I started my Airbnb, I literally just had my house under my basic homeowner's policy. Because the home that I Airbnb is my actual residence. Except for when I'm basically traveling out of town. And when I first started it on Airbnb, I would just go over to a friend's or go over to my parents who live in town. So that's what I did. I was kind of back and forth, in and out. When the home would get booked, I would go out of town or go on vacation, or go stay, over at my parents or something like that. So I kind of did it back and forth, and I still had my home under my regular homeowner's policy. And I did that for like probably the first, 9 months or so of having my property on there. But honestly, like, I regret that because you'll know if you call your homeowner's policy and you tell them, hey, here's the situation. And, now it's kind of like a short-term rental policy. Like, they will tell you that nothing is covered in your homeowner's policy. So let's say you have a regular homeowner's policy and then you start Airbnb-ing that house and you have a guest stay there and, you're no longer there. You're out of town for a weekend. That violates the agreement with your homeowner's policy. They are covering it for you as a homeowner that you're going to be there. It's not like a regular short-term rental policy. It doesn't cover you in any rental situation. So it might be kind of confusing getting the insurance set up because your home as an Airbnb unit, as a short-term rental policy is not the same, or it kind of requires different things than a regular rental policy. My parents were landlords for about 13 years, so I've helped them out with that business quite a bit, but they had rental properties for their rental units, and those were 12-month leases. So again, that's different than a short-term rental. What you really want as far as insurance is something specifically geared for short-term rentals. It covers you differently. It's something that's going to be aimed for VRBO or VRBO, Airbnb, rental units, those all require different things, and it's a different type of coverage that's really going to specifically cover you for short-term rentals, that specific category. What I would recommend, and you can do your own research, you can jump online and look up short-term rental policies. I did that. I've talked to a lot of different companies. I've emailed back and forth. The one that I would recommend and my go-to is going to be a company called Proper Insurance. So I'll show you that right now. I'll put the link in the description of this video if you guys want to check them out. But you can use that link and get a free quote, basically. So here's where that link will take you. You just click 3-minute quote, or you can call them as well. They are super friendly on the phone. I was really impressed with their customer service. You can call them, email them, like they are really, really available. So that was great. But anyway, I'll put the link there. You just click 3-minute quote, and that basically takes you through the Airbnb and VRBO property owners insurance quote. They are a company specifically geared towards short-term rentals for Airbnb and for VRBO. So that's something different about them. It's not a regular homeowners, and it's not like a full rental policy, like a 12-month lease rental policy either. So you just go through, you fill out the information, and then you get your quote. It's free, doesn't cost you anything, at least not if you use the link that I'll provide. And then that pretty much sums that up. Again, you can do your own research and see what else you find, but they're the only ones that I actually found for specifically being a short-term rental, like I guess, policy. Okay, LLC information. This is our second frequently asked question. This one I get asked a lot. So the good thing about co-hosting is that you don't need an LLC to get started. Obviously, it's a little bit different when you talk about Airbnb hosting, as you are setting up a business with Airbnb hosting. And again, you can go ahead and kind of set that up, but know that with hosting, you're going to want to get the ball rolling on your LLC so that when you start making income, you don't run into as many issues trying to separate your personal or your personal accounts versus your business accounts when it comes to the money you're making on Airbnb. Now with co-hosting, again, co-hosting, you can delay your LLC. You actually don't need an LLC at all. Now with that being said, there are a lot of reasons that I would recommend still getting an LLC, but with co-hosting, you don't need one. So if setting up an LLC is something that you never want to do and you just want to be a 1099 contractor and you don't want to mess with it, then co-hosting is great. It's fine. You can do that, 100% no issues, because it's going to be a 1099 contracted position. So the reasons, however, that I would recommend still getting an LLC down the line, or right away, kind of whatever you want to do. But, if you are a co-host and you're bringing in good money, then, you might want to at least think about getting an LLC just because of all the tax write-off benefits. So think about with an LLC, if you have a business, you can write off certain things like your cell phone. You can write off parts of your actual house, like parts of my square footage, anything that you use for an office space, any type of travel to and from, the property or to business meetings or to the store if you're buying supplies for an Airbnb unit. You could again write off, if you're like a host, you can write off everything that you're buying for your Airbnb unit, all the furniture, all the utilities, everything like that. If you're a co-host, you can write off things that you're personally using for your business. So that would be like not just portions of your house, not just your phone bill, but it can be portions of your electric bill. If you're working from home, kind of wherever your office space is, you can write off a set portion of that space, your utilities, part of your mortgage, stuff like that. So there's a lot of different things you can write off just having your LLC set up. And that's the reason that I would recommend still doing it. But again, you don't have to have an LLC set up if you're going to be a co-host. You can just do 1099 contract if that's what you want to do. So hopefully that clears it up. And then your co-hosting responsibilities, I actually opened up this in the guide here, but there were a lot of specific questions as far as payment. So, and with co-host specifically, it can be a term that's, there can be a little crossover between like a virtual assistant, an Airbnb property manager. There are a lot of different terms that people might use when they're talking about co-hosting. So remember that the biggest difference between Airbnb co-hosting and Airbnb property management, or just property management in general, is that with Airbnb co-hosting, you're not handling any type of payment typically. So that's all still done through the host account. You can see the reservations, you can keep track of, the income that way. But as far as you actually handling payment, splitting up payment, that's something that the host is going to be doing. The host is going to be earning that money, and they are going to be paying you whatever you set up, an hourly rate or a portion, 10 to 30%, whatever you have in your contract, that's going to be paid out to you from the host, but it's not you managing those funds. So typically it's a little bit easier than property management, and you're going to have easier tasks to perform as well. So typically co-hosts, I'll just read these over again. This is in the guide. But it's mostly going to be communication. So think about Airbnb hosts. As a host, you have a property or properties and you're looking to expand your business. So you're trying to get more and more units. You're trying to set up those units. You're trying to get reservations, or set those up on Airbnb and start making an income. A lot of hosts that start getting more properties, they don't want to be sitting there having to message guests back and forth. They don't want to be having to check their phone all the time, respond to guest inquiries or write reviews or all this other kind of stuff. But they do need someone like a virtual assistant or a co-host, someone to kind of step in and handle those back end kind of responsibilities. So that's really all you're doing as a co-host. You're someone who's available from a set time. You're able to kind of respond quickly. You're able to answer any questions. You're able to kind of be the more customer servicey type person to basically just handle anything that the guest needs. Set them up for success, set the proper expectations of the property, and make sure that they have a great stay. You're also someone who's going to be communicating with the cleaners. When a guest checks out, you're going to be letting the cleaners know, okay, this is your time window to get in and out of the property, that sort of thing. And that is all automated. I think I've talked about that in several other videos. But you can automate the whole cleaning process where you don't have to lift a finger. It's just connected to a cleaning service or your cleaning service person. And they are notified, about your reservations, and they know when to come in and out without you having to let them know or lift a finger. And I can do a different video on that if you guys have questions on how to set that up. But so that's essentially your responsibilities as a co-host. Now, as I've mentioned, a lot of these co-hosting jobs are remote. But if you do happen to have one or find one that needs you to be local, and I know a lot of people prefer to be local as well, then they might require you to check in on the property. So maybe do like a quality check after the cleaners have gone, or maybe go and, run to the store and restock supplies, or, set things up on the counter for the guests, something like that. So that is something that is only going to be more of a local thing. Obviously hard to do when you're remote. Okay, what's the last one? The last one is simply how to start. So this can be kind of a hurdle as far as when people learn about co-hosting and they're eager to start, but they're not really sure where to begin. And I've done plenty of videos about where to actually find these jobs. So this is really going to be more intended about like how to actually go about getting your clients or knowing where to begin. So as far as, when you're starting co-hosting, I would only really start with one host client. And make sure that you're not biting off more than you can chew. I know a lot of people do this part-time, or, if you're really willing to go full-time with it, then you can scale that business at that point. But I don't want you to get overwhelmed or feel like, oh, great, now I took on a client with 60 plus properties and I'm getting slammed all day, with messages, and it's just, too much for a beginner. And you can get to that point later down in the road if you want to, handle that many properties, or if you want to build a team and handle that many properties, you can. But at the very beginning, I would start with one host who maybe has between 1 and 3 or 1 and 5 properties. That's going to be a good, really kind of general area for you to begin. And then see where that leaves you as far as time, as far as how easy it is to set up those accounts, as far as just kind of getting started and getting the ball rolling. If you're someone who does it full time, then you're going to have more time to kind of manage and communicate with the reservations and set up the listings. But start small. I know a lot of people are wondering, well, how much time does it really take to manage one listing? Not that much time. Remember, one listing, guys, is probably going to maybe get you a couple messages a week. So consider that. Maybe I would say for one listing, it probably would take me 2 hours a week to manage. And that's simply just messaging the guests back and forth. Now, keep in mind your responsibilities as well. Are you setting up this listing account for your post client? Are you putting in all the pictures and all the description? Keep in mind what your responsibilities are and what they need done. Or do they already have all that set up and they simply want you to step in and start messaging people back? Because that's going to be obviously way less time if all you're doing is just kind of being there to check your phone or messaging these guests back when they have an inquiry. So, but start small is always my recommendation, and then see how you like it, get some experience, and then decide to kind of build up. And you can accept as many host clients as you want. So you could turn this into a real business. You could have a small team. You could have other virtual assistants that help you. But start small and then build up to that once you get more comfortability with the platform. And once you actually know kind of what the superhost requirements are and things like that. So hopefully that will kind of help as well. You just knowing like where to start, where to begin, how many clients to accept, how long does it take, those types of questions. So hopefully that was a quick kind of FAQ session. I know a lot of you have been having these questions, so I wanted to just jump in and make this short video, but hopefully everyone is having a great Memorial Day weekend, and hopefully everyone has a good week.